The rain fell hard against the windows of Ashford Manor. Lady Eleanor Grey stood in the grand library, her hands pressed against the cold glass. She was 23 years old, but her eyes carried the weight of someone much older. Life had taught her that beauty meant nothing without strength, and strength was all she had left. Behind her, the door opened slowly. She did not turn around. She knew who it was by the sound of his footsteps. Heavy, uncertain, guilty. "Eleanor," Lord William Ashford said quietly. She closed her eyes. His voice still had the power to make her heart race, even after everything. "You should not be here," she said, her voice calm but cold. "I know," he replied, "but I had to see you." Eleanor turned to face him. He stood in the doorway, like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. His dark hair was wet from the rain. His coat hung loose on his broad shoulders. His eyes, those blue eyes that once made her believe in fairy tales, looked haunted. "Why?" she asked. "What could you possibly have to say to me now?" William took a step forward, then stopped. He seemed afraid to come closer. I wanted to apologize." Eleanor laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "An apology? After 3 years? How generous of you, my lord." "Eleanor, please." "Please what?" she interrupted, her voice rising. "Please forgive you. Please forget that you left me standing at the altar in front of every noble family in England. Please pretend that you did not choose your title and your father's fortune over the woman who loved you with everything she had." William flinched as if she had struck him. "I was a coward," he said quietly. "Yes," Eleanor agreed. "You were." There was silence between them. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The library felt too small suddenly, as if the walls were closing in. "My father threatened to disown me," William said, his voice barely above a whisper. "He said if I married you, a woman with no dowry, no title, no connections, I would lose everything. Ashford Manor, the estates, the family name, everything." Eleanor's hands trembled, but she kept her voice steady. "And you believed him?" "I was 25 years old, Eleanor. I was weak. I was afraid." "You were selfish," she corrected him. "You chose comfort over love. You chose gold over me." William's jaw tightened. "I know, and I have regretted it every single day since." "Good," Eleanor said coldly. "I hope your regret keeps you awake at night, just as mine did for the first year after you abandoned me." "Eleanor, do you know what happened after you left?" she asked, taking a step toward him. "Do you know what it was like to face all those people, to see the pity in their eyes, to hear the whispers behind my back? Poor Eleanor Grey, jilted at the altar. No wonder, really. She had nothing to offer him." William's face crumbled. "I never wanted." "It does not matter what you wanted," Eleanor cut him off again. "What matters is what you did. You destroyed me, William. You took my heart, my trust, my faith in love, and you crushed them all beneath your expensive boots." "I know," William said, and there were tears in his eyes now. "I know I hurt you. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know I do not deserve you." Eleanor stared at him for a long moment. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. "You are right," she said finally. "You do not deserve me." William nodded slowly. He looked down at the floor, defeated, but Eleanor was not finished. "Then earn me," she said. William's head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me," Eleanor said, her voice stronger now. "If you truly regret what you did, if you truly believe I am worth fighting for, then prove it. Earn me." William stared at her as if she had spoken in a foreign language. "How?" he asked. "Tell me how, and I will do it." Eleanor smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "I do not know yet," she said. "But I promise you this, William Ashford. It will not be easy. It will not be quick. And it will require you to become the man you should have been 3 years ago." William took another step forward. His eyes were intense now, burning with something Eleanor had not seen in years. Hope. "I will do anything," he said. "Anything, Eleanor. Just tell me what you need." "I need time," she replied, "and I need you to leave now." William looked like he wanted to argue, but instead he nodded. "Very well," he said. "But I will be back." "I know," Eleanor said quietly. William turned and walked to the door, but before he left, he stopped and looked back at her one more time. "I love you," he said. "I never stopped loving you." Eleanor did not reply. She simply watched as he walked out of the library and closed the door behind him. When she was alone again, Eleanor let out a long breath. Her hands were shaking, her heart was pounding. She sat down in the nearest chair and pressed her palms against her eyes. What had she just done? If you are enjoying this story, please leave a comment and let me know. Your support means everything. 3 years earlier, Eleanor Gray had been a different person. She had been young, naive, and hopelessly in love. She had believed that love conquered all. She had believed that William Ashford, the handsome young lord who courted her with flowers and poetry and promises, would marry her despite her lack of fortune. She had been a fool. The wedding was supposed to be small but elegant. Eleanor's aunt, who had raised her after her parents died, had spent every penny she had to make sure Eleanor looked beautiful. The dress was simple but lovely. The church was decorated with white roses. Everything was perfect, except the groom never came. Eleanor had stood at the altar for 30 minutes, waiting. The guests whispered. The priest coughed nervously. Her aunt wept quietly in the front pew. And still, William did not come. Finally, a servant arrived with a letter. Eleanor's hands shook as she opened it. The words were brief and cold. "I cannot marry you. Forgive me, William." That was all. No explanation, no real apology. Just 7 words that shattered her entire world. Eleanor had not cried at first. She had been too shocked, too numb. She had simply walked out of the church with her head held high, ignoring the stares and the whispers. She had climbed into her aunt's carriage and ridden home in silence. It was only when she was alone in her room, still wearing her wedding dress, that she finally broke down and wept. The months that followed were dark. Eleanor barely ate. She barely slept. She spent her days staring out windows and her nights haunted by memories of William's smile, his laugh, his touch. Her aunt tried to comfort her, but there was little she could do. Eleanor had lost more than a husband. She had lost her reputation, her future, her hope. But slowly, painfully, Eleanor began to heal. She realized that she could not spend the rest of her life mourning a man who had chosen wealth over love. She had to survive. She had to become stronger. So she did. Eleanor spent the next 3 years rebuilding herself. She read every book in her aunt's library. She learned to manage money, to negotiate, to think like a merchant rather than a lady. When her aunt died 6 months ago, Eleanor inherited the small country estate and all the debts that came with it. Most women in her position would have been ruined. But Eleanor was not most women. She worked harder than any man. She sold land, renegotiated loans, and turned the failing estate into something profitable. She became known in the county as the clever young woman who refused to marry, who refused to depend on any man. Some admired her, others pitied her. Many whispered that she was too proud, too cold, too damaged to ever love again. Eleanor did not care what they said. She had learned that the only person she could truly depend on was herself. And then, 3 years after he destroyed her, William Ashford walked back into her life. The next morning, Eleanor woke early. She had not slept well. Her mind kept replaying the conversation in the library. William's face. His words. "I do not deserve you." No, she thought. He did not. But something about seeing him again had stirred feelings she thought she had buried. Anger, yes, but also something else, something dangerous. Eleanor dressed quickly and went downstairs. Her maid, Mary, was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. "Good morning, my lady," Mary said cheerfully. "You are up early." "I could not sleep," Eleanor admitted. Mary gave her a knowing look. "This would not have anything to do with Lord Ashford's visit last night, would it?" Eleanor sighed. Of course Mary knew. Servants always knew everything. "He apologized," Eleanor said simply. Mary raised her eyebrows. "After 3 years, how kind of him." "That is what I said." Mary poured Eleanor a cup of tea. "What did you tell him?" Eleanor hesitated. "I told him to earn me." Mary nearly dropped the teapot. "You what?" "I told him that if he truly regretted what he did, if he truly believed I was worth fighting for, then he needed to prove it." Mary stared at her. "My lady, are you considering forgiving him?" "I do not know," Eleanor said honestly. "Part of me wants to send him away forever, but another part—" She trailed off. "Another part still loves him," Mary finished quietly. Eleanor looked down at her tea. "Yes," she whispered. "God help me. Yes." Mary sat down across from her. "Then you must be careful," she said seriously. "Lord Ashford broke your heart once. If you give him the chance, he could do it again." "No," Eleanor said. "That is why I am not making this easy for him. If William wants me back, he will have to fight for me. He will have to prove that he has changed. And if he cannot—" She paused. "Then at least I will know I was right to let him go." Mary nodded slowly. "What will you ask him to do?" Eleanor smiled. "I have some ideas." That afternoon, William returned to Ashford Manor. He had barely slept. His mind was consumed with thoughts of Eleanor, her face, her voice, the way she had looked at him with such cold fury, and yet was there something else there too? A flicker of the love they once shared. "Then earn me." Those words had echoed in his head all night. William had no idea what Eleanor would ask of him, but he meant what he said. He would do anything, anything to prove that he was no longer the coward who ran away 3 years ago. William's father, Lord Edward Ashford, was waiting for him in the study. The old man sat behind his massive desk, looking stern as always. "I heard you went to see the Grey Woman," Lord Edward said coldly. William's jaw tightened. "Her name is Eleanor. I do not care what her name is." Lord Edward snapped. "I told you 3 years ago, that woman is beneath you. She has no money, no title, no family worth mentioning. You will not shame this family by associating with her." "I love her," William said simply. Lord Edward's face turned red. "Love? Love? What does love matter when you have a duty to this family, to this name?" "Love matters more than any of that," William replied, his voice calm but firm. "I made a terrible mistake 3 years ago, Father. I chose duty over love. I chose you over her, and I have been miserable every day since." "That is nonsense," Lord Edward sputtered. "You have everything. Wealth, land, status." "I have nothing," William interrupted, "because I do not have her." Lord Edward stood up, slamming his hands on the desk. "If you marry that woman, I will disown you. Do you understand? You will lose everything." William looked his father in the eye. "Then I will lose everything," he said quietly, "because I am going to marry Eleanor Grey, and this time nothing will stop me." William turned and walked out of the study, leaving his father speechless. For the first time in 3 years, William felt free. Stay with me. This story is just beginning. 2 days later, Eleanor received a letter. It was delivered by one of William's servants, a young man who looked nervous as he handed her the sealed envelope. Eleanor opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper with William's handwriting. Eleanor, you told me to earn you. I am ready to begin. Tomorrow at noon, I will be at the village market square. I will wait for you there. Come. If you wish to see the first step, yours always, William. Eleanor read the letter 3 times. What was he planning? What did he mean by the first step? Mary peeked over her shoulder. Are you going to go? Eleanor folded the letter carefully. Yes, she said. I have to know what he is doing. The next day, Eleanor put on a simple dress and made her way to the village. The market was busy as always, full of farmers selling vegetables, merchants hawking cloth, and children running between the stalls. At the center of the square, a small crowd had gathered. Eleanor pushed her way through and stopped in shock. William stood on a wooden platform. He was dressed plainly, without his fine coat or expensive boots. He looked like an ordinary man, and he was making an announcement. My name is William Ashford, he said loudly, his voice carrying across the square. 3 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I abandoned the woman I loved because I was afraid of losing my wealth and my title. I chose money over love. I chose cowardice over courage. The crowd murmured in surprise. Eleanor stood frozen, unable to believe what she was hearing. I am here today to tell all of you that I was wrong, William continued. I hurt someone I loved more than life itself. I hurt Lady Eleanor Grey, and I am here to publicly apologize to her and to beg for her forgiveness. Eleanor's heart pounded. People in the crowd were starting to point at her, recognizing her. William's eyes found hers in the crowd. Eleanor, he said, his voice softer now, I do not deserve you. I know that, but I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life trying to become the man you deserve. I will earn you, Eleanor. I swear it. The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Eleanor stood there, her face burning, her emotions in chaos. William stepped down from the platform and walked toward her. People moved aside, creating a path between them. Why did you do that? Eleanor asked when he reached her. Because you deserve to hear the truth, William said. And because everyone who witnessed your humiliation 3 years ago deserves to know that it was my fault, not yours. I want the world to know that I failed you, Eleanor, not the other way around. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. She would not cry, not here, not in front of all these people. This does not change anything, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I know, William replied, but it is a start. Eleanor looked into his eyes. She saw sincerity there, and something else. Determination. What else will you do? She asked quietly. William smiled slightly. Wait and see, he said. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Eleanor standing in the middle of the market square, surrounded by whispering villagers and a storm of confusing emotions. Over the next 2 weeks, William continued his campaign. He did not just visit Eleanor or send her flowers. He showed her through his actions that he had changed. First, he went to Eleanor's aunt's grave and left flowers there every morning. When Eleanor discovered this, her heart ached. Her aunt had loved William once, before he broke Eleanor's heart. Second, William began working with the tenant farmers on Eleanor's estate. He showed up early in the morning, dressed in plain clothes, and helped them repair fences, harvest crops, and fix broken equipment. The farmers, who had always struggled under previous landlords, were shocked that a lord would work beside them. Third, William confronted his father publicly at a gathering of local nobles. He announced that he would not inherit the Ashford fortune if it meant abandoning Eleanor again. Lord Edward was furious, but William stood firm. Word of William's actions spread throughout the county. Some people admired his devotion, others thought he was a fool. But everyone agreed on one thing. Lord William Ashford was a changed man. Eleanor heard all of this. She saw the flowers at her aunt's grave. She watched from her window as William worked in the fields. She received reports of his argument with his father. And slowly, against her better judgment, her heart began to soften. One evening, Eleanor was reading in the library when Mary announced a visitor. "Lord Ashford is here, my lady. He says he has something important to show you." Eleanor closed her book. "Send him in." William entered the library. He looked tired but determined. In his hands, he carried a small wooden box. "Eleanor," he said, "thank you for seeing me." "What is this about, William?" Eleanor asked, standing up. William walked closer and placed the box on the table between them. "Open it," he said. Eleanor hesitated, then lifted the lid. Inside was a single piece of paper, a legal document. She picked it up and read it carefully. Her eyes widened. "This is," she started. "A deed," William finished. "To the eastern section of Ashford Manor, 500 acres of farmland. I have transferred ownership to you." Eleanor looked up at him in shock. "Why would you do this?" "Because you told me to earn you," William said simply. "You have been managing your aunt's estate brilliantly. You have worked harder than any lord I know, but I also know you have debts and limited resources. This land will give you financial security. It will give you independence." "I do not want your charity," Eleanor said, her voice cold. "This is not charity," William replied. "This is me showing you that I value your strength and your intelligence. This is me giving you power, not taking it away. You can do whatever you want with this land. Sell it, farm it, refuse it. The choice is yours." Eleanor stared at the deed in her hands. 500 acres. It was worth a fortune. "If I take this," she said slowly, "I will owe you nothing. You understand that, do you not?" "Yes," William said. "I do not want you to owe me anything, Eleanor. I want you to have the freedom to choose. Choose to hate me. Choose to forgive me. Choose to love me again. But I want it to be your choice, not something you are forced into because you need my money or my protection." Eleanor's hands trembled. This was not what she expected. She thought William would court her with pretty words and expensive gifts. She thought he would try to manipulate her emotions. But this was different. This was real power, real freedom. "I need to think about this," she said quietly. "Take all the time you need," William replied. He turned to leave, then paused. "Eleanor?" "Yes?" "I meant what I said in the market square. I will earn you, no matter how long it takes." Then he left, and Eleanor was alone with the deed and her confused heart. That night, Eleanor could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about William, about everything he had done over the past 2 weeks. Part of her was still angry, still hurt. 3 years of pain could not be erased so easily, but another part of her remembered the William she fell in love with, the man who made her laugh, who read poetry to her in the garden, who promised her forever. Was that man still inside him, or was this all just a performance? Eleanor got out of bed and walked to her window. The moon was full, casting silver light across the grounds. In the distance, she could see the edge of the estate, the land that bordered Ashford Manor, the land that was now hers. She thought about what William had said. I want you to have the freedom to choose. Freedom. It was something Eleanor had fought for over the past 3 years. The freedom to control her own life, to not depend on anyone. And William was giving her more of that freedom, not less. Damn you, William Ashford, Eleanor whispered to the night. Why are you making this so hard? But in her heart, she already knew the answer. Because real love was hard. Real change was hard. And William was finally willing to do the hard work. The question was, could she trust him? 3 weeks after William gave her the deed, Eleanor finally made a decision. She invited him to dinner at her estate. William arrived exactly on time, dressed formally but not ostentatiously. He looked nervous, which pleased Eleanor. He should be nervous. They ate in the small dining room, attended only by Mary. The food was simple but good. Roasted chicken, fresh bread, vegetables from the garden. Thank you for inviting me, William said. You are welcome, Eleanor replied politely. They made small talk for a while. Weather, crops, village news. It was all very proper and distant. Finally, over dessert, Eleanor put down her fork and looked at William directly. I have decided to accept the deed, she said. William's face lit up. Truly? Yes, Eleanor said. But I want you to understand something. This does not mean I have forgiven you. It does not mean we are going to be married. It simply means I recognize that you are trying to change, and I am willing to acknowledge that. I understand, William said, though he looked disappointed. However, Eleanor continued, I am also willing to give you a chance. William's eyes widened. A chance? Yes, Eleanor said. I am not ready to trust you with my heart again. Not yet. But I am willing to spend time with you to get to know the man you claim to have become. If, after some time, I believe that you have truly changed, then perhaps we can discuss the future. Eleanor, William breathed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Do not thank me yet, Eleanor warned. I will be watching you closely, William. If you give me any reason to doubt you, any reason to think you are manipulating me or lying to me, I will end this immediately. Do you understand? I understand, William said seriously. And I promise you, Eleanor, I will not fail you again. Eleanor nodded. We will see. What happens next? Keep watching to find out. The following months were strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Eleanor and William began spending time together, but it was different from before. There were no grand romantic gestures, no passionate declarations, just two people slowly rebuilding trust. They took walks together through the countryside. William told her about his life over the past 3 years, how miserable he had been, how he had tried to forget her and failed. Eleanor, in turn, told him about her struggles, about the nights she cried herself to sleep, about the months of rebuilding herself, about the woman she had become. I am not the same person I was 3 years ago, she told him one afternoon as they walked along a stream. That girl who believed in fairy tales is gone, William. I am harder now, more careful. I know, William said quietly, and I love you even more for it. Eleanor looked at him sharply. Do not say things like that unless you mean them. I mean them, William said, stopping and turning to face her. Eleanor, I fell in love with a beautiful, kind, hopeful young woman. But the woman you are now, the strong, independent, intelligent woman who survived what I did to her and came out stronger, I am in awe of you. I love you more than I ever did before. Eleanor's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. Prove it, she whispered. How? William asked, stepping closer. Do not just tell me you love me, Eleanor said. Show me. Every day. In small ways. In ways that matter. I will, William promised. I swear to you, Eleanor, I will. And he did. Over the next few months, William showed Eleanor his love in 100 small ways. He brought her books he thought she would enjoy. He helped her with the estate accounts. He listened when she talked about her fears and dreams. He was patient when she pulled away, and he was gentle when she let him come closer. Slowly, carefully, Eleanor began to trust him again. But trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. There were still moments when Eleanor doubted him, when she wondered if this was all just an elaborate performance, when she prepared herself for the moment he would leave her again. One evening, about 4 months after their reconciliation began, Eleanor and William were sitting in the library. A fire crackled in the fireplace. William was reading aloud from a book of poetry while Eleanor worked on some estate correspondence. Suddenly, William stopped reading. "Eleanor?" he said. "Yes?" she replied, not looking up from her letter. "I want to ask you something." Something in his tone made Eleanor put down her pen. She looked at him and saw that he was nervous. "What is it?" she asked. William set down the book and moved to kneel in front of her chair. Eleanor's heart began to race. "Please do not," she started, but William shook his head. "I am not proposing," he said quickly. "Not yet, but I do want to ask you something important." Eleanor relaxed slightly. "All right. Do you think," William said slowly, "that someday you might be able to forgive me? Truly forgive me?" Eleanor looked into his eyes. She saw vulnerability there, and fear. He was afraid of her answer. She thought about it carefully before responding. "I do not know," she said honestly. "Part of me wants to forgive you, part of me has forgiven you, but there is still a part of me that is angry, William. Still a part of me that remembers standing at that altar, waiting for you, believing you would come." William's face crumpled. "I know, and I am so sorry." "Let me finish," Eleanor interrupted gently. "Yes, part of me is still angry, but another part of me sees how hard you are trying. Part of me sees the man you are becoming, and that part of me wants to let go of the anger and the hurt. That part of me wants to love you again." "Eleanor," William whispered. "But I need more time," Eleanor said. "I need to be sure that you will not hurt me again. I need to be sure that this is real." "It is real," William said fervently. "I swear to you this is real." "Then give me more time to believe that," Eleanor said. William nodded. "I will wait as long as you need. A month, a year, a lifetime. I will wait, Eleanor." Eleanor reached out and touched his face gently. "Thank you," she said softly. William closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. It was the first time Eleanor had touched him like that in 3 years. It was a beginning. Winter came, and with it a test neither of them expected. Lord Edward Ashford fell seriously ill. William rushed to his father's bedside, and Eleanor did not see him for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, Eleanor realized something important. She missed him, not just his presence, but him, his voice, his laugh, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. When William finally returned, he looked exhausted. Eleanor met him at the door of her estate. "How is your father?" she asked. "He will live," William said tiredly. "But the doctors say he is very weak. It will be a long recovery." "I am glad he will live," Eleanor said, and she meant it. Despite everything, she did not wish death on the old man. William looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "He asked to see you," he said. Eleanor froze. "What?" "My father," William repeated. "He wants to speak with you." "Why?" Eleanor asked suspiciously. I do not know, William admitted. But he was insistent. Will you come? Eleanor did not want to. The thought of facing Lord Edward, the man who had convinced his son to abandon her, filled her with dread. But she looked at William's exhausted face and found herself nodding. All right, she said, I will come. The next day, Eleanor and William travelled to Ashford Manor together. It was the first time Eleanor had been there in 3 years. The house was as grand as she remembered, but it felt cold and empty. Lord Edward was in bed, looking pale and weak, but his eyes were still sharp when Eleanor entered the room. Miss Grey, he said, his voice hoarse, thank you for coming. Lord Ashford, Eleanor replied formally. Please, sit, the old man said, gesturing to a chair beside the bed. Eleanor sat, keeping her back straight and her face neutral. William stood behind her, his hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. I owe you an apology, Lord Edward said. Eleanor's eyebrows rose. This was the last thing she expected. 3 years ago, Lord Edward continued, I convinced my son to abandon you. I told him that his duty to his family was more important than his happiness. I told him that love was a luxury he could not afford. The old man paused, coughing weakly. I was wrong. Eleanor said nothing. She waited. I have watched my son over these past few months, Lord Edward said. I have seen how he has changed, how he has fought for you, how he has chosen you over wealth and status. And I have realized something. He looked directly at Eleanor. I was wrong about you, Miss Grey. You are not beneath my son. He is not good enough for you. Eleanor's breath caught. You are strong, Lord Edward continued. Stronger than most noble women I have known. You have survived scandal and hardship and built something for yourself. You have made my son into a better man than I ever was, and for that I am grateful. Father, William said softly, his voice thick with emotion. I am dying, Lord Edward said bluntly. Perhaps not today or tomorrow, but soon, and before I die, I want to make this right. He looked at Eleanor again. If you marry my son, you will have my blessing, and you will have the full support of the Ashford name and fortune. Eleanor sat very still. This was what she had wanted 3 years ago. The acceptance, the blessing, the happy ending. But now, thank you, Lord Ashford, Eleanor said carefully, but I do not need your blessing to decide whether or not to marry William. That is between him and me. Lord Edward actually smiled, though it was weak. You see, he said to William, she is perfect for you. After they left Lord Edward's room, William walked Eleanor to the carriage. You did not have to come, he said, but I am glad you did. Your father surprised me, Eleanor admitted. He surprised me too, William said. I think facing death has made him reevaluate many things. Eleanor looked up at William. The afternoon sun lit his face, highlighting the exhaustion but also the strength there. He had grown so much over these months. He had become the man she always hoped he would be. William, she said softly. Yes, I think I am ready to forgive you. William froze. What? Eleanor smiled, and this time it was genuine. I said, I think I am ready to forgive you. Not completely, not all at once, but I think I can start to let go of the anger. William's eyes filled with tears. Eleanor, I am not saying I will marry you, Eleanor interrupted quickly. Not yet, but I am saying that I believe you have changed. I believe you love me, and I think I might be able to love you again too. William grabbed her hands. That is all I need, he said fervently. Hope. Just give me hope, Eleanor, and I will do the rest. Eleanor squeezed his hands. You have hope, she said. You have earned it. William pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in 3 years, Eleanor let herself be held by him, She rested her head against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. It felt like coming home. Spring came, bringing new life to the countryside. Eleanor's estate thrived. The land William had given her proved even more profitable than she expected. She hired more workers, expanded her operations, and became known throughout the region as one of the most successful landowners, male or female. William continued to prove himself. He worked alongside Eleanor as an equal partner, never trying to control her or take credit for her success. He supported her decisions, even when he disagreed with them. He respected her independence, even as he courted her heart. One evening in May, exactly 1 year after William first walked back into Eleanor's life, they were sitting in the garden. The roses were in bloom, filling the air with their sweet scent. "Do you remember what day it is?" William asked. Eleanor smiled. "Yes," she said. "1 year since you came to my library in the rain." "1 year since you told me to earn you," William added. "Yes," Eleanor agreed. William turned to face her. "Eleanor Gray," he said seriously, "I have spent this past year trying to prove to you that I have changed. I have tried to show you through my actions that I love you, that I will never abandon you again, that I am worthy of your trust." Eleanor's heart began to race. She knew what was coming. "I know I said I would wait as long as you needed," William continued. "And I will, but I have to ask, because I cannot hold it in any longer." He slipped off his chair and knelt in front of her, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Eleanor Gray, will you marry me?" Eleanor looked at the ring in the box. It was not extravagant or showy. It was simple and beautiful and perfect. She looked at William's face. She saw love there, and hope, and fear. She thought about the past year, about all the ways William had proven himself, about all the reasons she had fallen in love with him in the first place, and all the new reasons she loved him now. And she realized something. She was not the same woman who stood at the altar 3 years ago. That woman had been weak, dependent, naive. But the woman she was now, she was strong, she was independent, she was whole, and she wanted to share that strength with someone. She wanted to build a life with someone, not because she needed him to complete her, but because she wanted him beside her. "Yes," Eleanor said. William's face transformed. "Yes?" "Yes," Eleanor repeated, laughing as tears streamed down her face. "Yes, William Ashford, I will marry you." William slipped the ring onto her finger and then pulled her into his arms, kissing her like a drowning man finding air. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying and laughing. "I love you," William said. "I love you so much, Eleanor." "I love you too," Eleanor replied. And this time she meant it with her whole heart. No reservations, no fear, just love. "I promise," William said, holding her face in his hands. "I promise I will never hurt you again. I promise I will spend every day of the rest of my life earning you." Eleanor smiled through her tears. "You already have," she said softly. "You already have." Their wedding took place 3 months later. It was a grand affair, attended by nobles and commoners alike. Eleanor wore a dress even more beautiful than the first one. The church was decorated with flowers, and this time the groom was there waiting at the altar with tears of joy in his eyes. When Eleanor walked down the aisle, she did not feel nervous or afraid. She felt powerful. She felt loved. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. William took her hand when she reached the altar. "You are breathtaking," he whispered. "You are here," Eleanor whispered back. "That is all that matters." They exchanged vows in front of everyone who had witnessed Eleanor's humiliation 3 years ago. But this time there was no pity in their eyes, only admiration and joy. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, William kissed Eleanor like she was the most precious thing in the world. because to him she was. After the ceremony, during the reception, Eleanor stood with William on the terrace overlooking the gardens. "Are you happy?" William asked, holding her close. "Yes," Eleanor said, "I am. I will make sure you stay happy," William promised. "Every day for the rest of our lives." Eleanor looked up at him and smiled. "I know you will," she said, "because you earned me, William Ashford. You proved that you are the man I always believed you could be." "Thank you," William said softly. "Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for believing in me when I did not believe in myself. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for fighting for me," Eleanor replied. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing me that love is not about pretty words and easy promises. It is about hard work and dedication and choosing each other every single day." They stood there together, holding each other as the sun set over the garden. Around them, their guests celebrated. Music played. People danced. It was a perfect evening. But Eleanor and William barely noticed any of it. They only saw each other. "I love you," William said for what felt like the 1,000th time that day. "I love you too," Eleanor replied. "And I always will." Years later, when people told the story of Lord William Ashford and Lady Eleanor Ashford, they told it as a love story. But those who knew them best knew it was more than that. It was a story about second chances, about redemption, about two people who refused to let their mistakes define them. It was a story about a man who learned that true strength meant admitting when you are wrong and fighting to make things right. And it was a story about a woman who learned that forgiveness was not a weakness, but the strongest thing a person could offer. But most of all, it was a story about earning love, not demanding it, not expecting it, but earning it through actions, through dedication, through becoming the best version of yourself. Because in the end, that is what real love is. It is not just a feeling. It is a choice, a commitment, a promise to fight for each other, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. And William and Eleanor fought for their love. They earned each other, and they lived happily ever after, not because their story was perfect, but because they chose to make it beautiful despite its flaws. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this story. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below telling me what you thought, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more historical romance stories. Your support means everything to me, and I love reading your thoughts and reactions. Until next time, remember that true love is worth fighting for, and second chances can lead to the most beautiful endings.